News. Dan Rather,
Connie Chung,
Mike Wallace,
Paula Zahn,
Ed Bradley,
Leslie Stahl,
Harry Smith,
Morley Safer,
Bob Schieffer,
and Charles Kuralt. Experience.
CBS News.
Still reeling from last week's tax blues? Cheer up. These couples had a bright idea and saved a bundle.
It's great. I think it's a good thing. I think everybody should try and do it.
I would say if you have a little bit of time and the energy to put into it, it's all really worth it.
So, how did they save big on their taxes? We'll tell you on the CBS Evening News tonight.
From an Asian warlord's hideout to the streets of your neighborhood, 48 Hours tracks down the new heroin connection. Tonight at 10, 9 Central.
You can stop smoking. You can undo the damage. We'll show you how. Coming up on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.
Ahead on CBS News, up to the minute, AIDS testing in schools.
A Florida school board passes a plan to allow screening in what may be the first ever in-school AIDS test. Good morning from the world headquarters of CBS News in New York. This is CBS News Up to the Minute. I'm Russ Mitchell.
And I'm Monica Gayle. A first in the fight against AIDS. On Tuesday night, a Florida school board unanimously passed a plan to allow AIDS testing in school.
In that county, 8 teenagers and more than 100 in their 20s have tested positive for the virus since 1983. It's Lee County, and the argument is not whether to test or not to test, but who will receive the results. Keith Taylor has our reports.
Florida is ranked third in the nation for the number of teenagers who have AIDS, and the numbers are growing. High school students will openly tell you that many of their classmates experiment with sex. Some are not afraid of AIDS and do not use condoms.
There's some people that are irresponsible and they really don't think it's going to happen to them.
Most students seem to support a voluntary AIDS testing program in high schools.
I think it needs to be done because people are having sex and it is real, and people are very promiscuous.
It's nice that you know that you don't go spreading around to anybody else.
Many parents support the idea, but worry about the test results. The law states AIDS test results are confidential. Parents do not have to be notified if their children take the test or test positive.
We're talking 12 years of age and over. These are the children that can be tested.
I want to do and help my child. And if I do not know, I cannot help my child.
Mandatory informing the parents, that would scare kids away. It's a big enough step for a child to take the responsibility and get the courage to take the test, knowing in 2 weeks that they could find out that they were going to die in a number of years.
The school board unanimously approved setting up a pilot program.
That this board allow any high school that is planning a health fair to conduct that health fair with the HIV test by the health department for only graduating seniors.
We're the pioneer, and we're the first school board in the country to say to our children, we're going to do everything we have to do for your welfare.
I think every generation has an opportunity to be remembered for something. I would rather be part of a generation that gets remembered for doing something about AIDS instead of one that stood by and watched people die.
The majority of the community thinks voluntary AIDS testing will promote AIDS education and awareness and teach kids how to protect themselves. The school board will formally vote on the proposal in July and try and make all the AIDS testing available for every senior in the county by next fall. In Fort Myers, Florida, Keith Taylor for CBS News.
In South Carolina, a man accused and tried for raping his wife is found not guilty. That's the test of the state's marital rape law. It brought protests to the Capitol. About 150 people formed a protest calling for strengthening the marital rape bill. Part of the protest was aimed at the acquittal of the accused husband. Evidence in the trial included a videotape the man took of himself having sex with his wife as she was bound and gagged. The alleged victim called for a continued fight against spousal abuse.
I did nothing wrong. I hope the verdict handed down in my case will reinforce the importance of fighting back with greater force.
Speakers at the South Carolina rally want to strengthen that state's marital rape bill to allow the admission of previous assaults as evidence in trials.
The city of Buffalo is the latest front for the confrontation over abortion. It is an issue that allows little gray area, but somewhere in between the pro-choice and the pro-life platforms is where the politicians want to be. To be otherwise in this election year is to risk defeat. CBS News White House correspondent Susan Spencer has that story.
This clinic is open today, ho ho!
While the demonstrators yell, the politicians calculate. Agreeing on one thing, the High Court's ruling on abortion this year could have enormous political impact, especially on George Bush.
My position has not changed. I am pro-life.
A one-time supporter of abortion rights, Mr. Bush did shift position once, but today steadfastly defends his party's pro-life platform, unlike many in his party. Just ask Senate candidate Tom Campbell of California.
Straight talk. I'm pro-choice and one of the most conservative members of Congress.
Or Kentucky Republican Susan Stokes, running for Congress.
I'm not a hard-line person almost on anything. I'm not for abortion. I'm only for not legislating abortion. And I think that's very important to say that.
The pending court decision has galvanized pro-choice Republicans who say they want to open up the party and get the anti-abortion language out of the GOP platform. Their argument to the president, we're trying to help you.
We do hear of surveys that show anywhere from 25 to 37% of Republican women may walk on the party, either by not voting for Ross Perot or, God forbid, Bill Clinton.
You are talking about perhaps 2 to 3 points that could shift. If the election gets that close, who knows what could happen.
The Bush camp scoffs at the idea that abortion could decide the election, worrying more about Republicans who some think just want to embarrass Mr. Bush.
They know, frankly, the president can't afford politically or for any reason, really, to change his position. That would hurt him significantly. I think it would hurt the Republican Party as well.
The first battle comes at a platform hearing in May, which, if the National Party had its way, would be the last anybody would hear from the pro-choice Republicans. But they vow to fight long enough to make sure that there is a vote on abortion at the convention in Houston, which is not a prospect that George Bush relishes. Susan Spencer, CBS News, the White House.
After their first execution in a quarter century, there are calls in California to scrap the gas chamber. Robert Alton Harris died Tuesday after a string of last-minute appeals for the murders of 2 teenagers. The suit filed by the ACLU claims the gas chamber is cruel and unusual punishment. The California lawmaker is now proposing a switch to lethal injection.
Fewer American infants died last year compared to 1990. Federal officials say the drop in infant mortality is good, but more babies could be saved through fairly simple changes in lifestyles.
The message to all women who are pregnant or planning a family is quite clear. That message is, don't smoke. The best thing that you can do to help your baby is to forego cigarettes. Also at risk to have low birth weight infants were the more than 1 in 5 mothers who gained less than 20 to 27 pounds.
In his report, Sullivan says the rate of infant deaths per 1,000 for 1991 was 0.2 less than the year before. Even with the decrease, 36,000 infants died in the U.S. last year.
The successor to the Russian throne has died. Grand Duke Vladimir Romanov collapsed Tuesday in Miami. He was 74. The Grand Duke's father was the cousin of the last Tsar, Nicholas II. Romanov was born in exile but had always dreamed of returning to his homeland.
Today is Earth Day, a chance to assess progress in saving the environment. There are events planned across the country, but there will be little fanfare compared to 2 years ago, which was the 20th anniversary of the first Earth Day. One event, the Environmental Protection Agency, is opening a new room where people can get environmental information. And when Up to the Minute continues, a trip to a place where the Cold War of sorts still exists.
Beneath the icy dome at the top of the world, it's a place where submarines still stalk. We'll be back.
It was just a very annoying itch, and it would just itch like anything, and you would scratch till you scrape your skin off your arm.
We're talking with Marie Caruso about Triple Action Gold Bond medicated powder.
Gold Bond has made itself a part of my life. I mean, it's relief.
Gold Bond's Triple Action is the absorbing action of powder, the medicating action of a proven itch fighter, and the drying action of zinc oxide.
The itch, it's gone. Gold Bond is terrific.
Try Triple Action Gold Bond medicated powder.
The best way to talk it out is person to person, so call. Call person to person and connect with someone new. Person to person. It's the only way to share private conversations.
1-900-737-2130, $4.99 per minute, adults only.
If you're lonely or just need a friend, pick up the phone and call. So call.
Do you realize just how much difference there is in life insurance rates from one insurance company to the next? For instance, if you're in good health and don't smoke cigarettes, Garden State Life Insurance may be able to save you as much as 50% off the cost of your life insurance. That's right, 30, 40, 50% off what you'd have to pay for a comparable amount of coverage elsewhere. And not just this month, but year after year for the rest of your life. Savings like that are well worth looking into. So if you need $100,000 to $1 million or more of quality term life insurance, you owe it to yourself to get the facts fast by calling now for this free information package, including a personal coverage proposal that shows you just how much your savings might be. There's no obligation, no sales pressure, and it could be a real eye-opener. 800-251-2500, toll free. 251-2500. Call Garden State Life Insurance today. 251-2500.
A London-based magazine reported earlier this week that the former Soviet Union has offered to sell the United States a nuclear submarine.
No doubt the Cold War is over, and while most politicians think about the peace dividend, the future of the nation's submarine fleet is a serious concern for the folks who live under the sea. CBS News correspondent Jim Stewart reports this morning from beneath the polar ice cap.
Submariners call it the last hiding place. 500 miles from the North Pole, a frozen white wilderness concealing waters where even now the coldest of Cold War games are still played.
The Navy says they're not alone out here, but while much of the old Soviet armed forces have ceased operation, Russian submarines have not. In fact, the Navy says at least 6 are on combat patrol right now, 2 possibly under this ice pack.
Stationary dive, stationary dive.
After 45 years of secrecy, a CBS News team was permitted this first-time look at a Navy polar ice cap patrol.
Coming to 180 feet.
These are uncertain times for the U.S. submarine community. Their boats are getting older, there aren't any firm plans to build new ones, and although the Russians are still out there, the fear of war is really not.
I think it's an extremely frustrating time to be in our business. You know, it's always frustrating to be in management when the dollars are going down. We're trying to redefine where we're going in the submarine force.
But that battle will be fought above the surface, not hundreds of feet below the polar ice where other threats remain. Viewed from below, a jagged ridge of upside-down mountain peaks called keels present a deadly obstacle course.
Now, how deep have you seen ice go, Captain?
I've seen ice keels as deep as 130 feet, and I understand that some keels have been measured as deep as 190.
It is 48 below zero on the surface, but a comfortable 68 inside the boat. 18 hours on duty, 6 off, and sailors learn to sleep through anything, even torpedo practice. Once surfaced, the crew hurries to clear the hatch, take on supplies, and slip back into the depths. For this is when a sub is most susceptible, and the Grayling, like much of the U.S. military in this era of cutbacks and peace dividends, is feeling particularly vulnerable. Jim Stewart, CBS News, aboard the USS Grayling.
CBS News Up to the Minute goes global now with some of the worst fighting yet in the former Yugoslavian Republic of Bosnia-Herzegovina. Artillery and mortars from Serbian military forces sparked a big fire in downtown Sarajevo and did heavy damage to a television station. These Serbian forces, supported by the Yugoslavian government, refused to turn over the republic to the Muslim forces which declared it independent. These Serbs continue to battle for control, despite threats from the U.S. and Europe that they may break diplomatic relations with Yugoslavia if the attacks go on. At an Egyptian military base Tuesday, President Hosni Mubarak held talks with Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. Afterwards, Mubarak held out hope that Libya and the West can come to an agreement on turning over the 2 Libyans suspected of bombing Pan Am Flight 103. Libya is under a UN air embargo because it won't turn over the 2 men. Egyptian President Mubarak's intervention is aimed at preventing any further action against Libya. And in China, authorities have their hands full in the island province of Henan. They set up what they call a special economic zone to attract tourists and foreign investors. What they got were karaoke bars where patrons sing along with karaoke machines, just like in the U.S., and prostitution, lots of it. Here's a typical transaction recorded by a reporter. By the way, that $1,000 price translates into about 130 U.S. dollars. Chinese officials say they've busted about 400 hookers in the past few years, and it sent them to re-education camps.
A possible new treatment for AIDS tops our medical report this morning. DDC is the name of a new AIDS drug. The company that manufactures DDC, Hoffman La Roche, says it's for people who cannot tolerate another AIDS treatment called AZT. But the Food and Drug Administration says DDC should not be taken by itself. An FDA advisory committee should announce a decision soon on what rules will govern the use of DDC.
How should prostate cancer be treated? That is becoming a controversial question within the medical community. Surgery is often the first answer, but now doctors have some questions about that approach. CBS News health correspondent Edie Magnus has the story.
Alan Voss is 52, and they caught his prostate cancer early. Taking no chances, he chose surgery to remove his prostate gland.
We see no signs of cancer.
A radical procedure, but one which is often a first line of defense against this disease, which is the second leading cancer killer of men.
Had I not elected for surgery, who's to say that I would have survived?
Today, there is evidence Alan may indeed have survived without his operation. Researchers in Sweden have found that a high percentage of men with prostate cancer live for years without treatment. They studied 223 prostate cancer patients over 10 years, all with early-stage disease, all virtually untreated. They found only 19 of them died of prostate cancer. They concluded there was not much room for improvement in the survival prospects of patients with early-stage disease, even if they did undergo a radical prostatectomy.
I think there's no question that we're overtreating, but we don't know which ones we're overtreating.
That's because there's no conclusive way to tell which tumors may just lie there, localized within the prostate, never causing problems, and which ones will spread and kill. For that reason, doctors have tended to advocate surgery or radiation, even though, as today's study bears out, there's no evidence that these treatments affect survival in any way.
You're risking someone's life and a very miserable death, and I don't think any of us are willing to take that chance on following a patient like this based on the fact that there's a chance that it may not cause any problems.
Edie Magnus, CBS News, New York.
On American Exposure this morning, we want to spice up your life. Everyone has their own opinions about what to do with jalapeno peppers. Well, now a jalapeno that you can crunch. Sorry, we don't provide the water. Donna Davis has the sizzling story from San Angelo, Texas.
It's sweet, it's savory, it's spicy hot, and it's green. Jalapeno pecan brittle, a tangy Texas treat making taste buds turn nationwide.
It stops people. At first, anytime you start something, you've got critics and skeptics and, oh, it'll never sell, the green, da-da-da. But that is what's really done it. It stops people, and then once they try it, they're sold on it.
Michelle and Ted Adams went into the candy business more than a year ago. Now, thousands of pounds of brittle and dozens of mistakes later, Windmill Candy of San Angelo has already turned a profit.
I mean, it takes a lot of patience with the people because, and you make a mistake. We made a lot of mistakes that first July. It was bad. But we've gotten everything straightened out, and most of the customers have been wonderful.
80% of the jalapeno brittle is Texas-made, another reason for its popularity. The Adams also satisfy every discerning palate, making 3 kinds of brittle: mild, hot, and very hot.
And so we took it to a craft show, and it went over real well, and we said, well, this needs to go to stores. It's a high-quality product. There's no margarine. It's all butter. Fancy large pieces of pecan. So we went to the Fire Food Show in February '91. And that's how we got started.
Windmill's owner sells its cactus-looking product throughout North America, and they hope to take the sweet treat worldwide. With a secret, unique recipe, Michelle's business savvy, and Ted's special stir, they're bound to have taste buds kicking everywhere. Reporting in San Angelo, Donna Davis for CBS News.
Sounds disgusting, I'm sorry.
Well, I think if you can just get past what it looks like, you might not be too bad.
I guess so. And up to the minute, safety note for you folks at home, if you were going to hurl, do it away from your television set. We'll be back with sports and weather after a break.
I don't believe he said that.
The best way to talk it out is person to person, so call. Call person to person and connect with someone new. Person to person, it's the only way to share private conversations.
1-900-737-2130, $4.99 per minute, adults only.
If you're lonely or just need a friend, pick up the phone and call. So call.
I'm here in this auto graveyard to demonstrate New Finish, the once-a-year car polish. Simply wipe it on and wipe it off. There's no rubbing, no buffing. Look how New Finish restored a deep, hard shine to even this weather-beaten old car. Next, we polished this car with New Finish and ran it through 52 car washes. After all the harsh detergents and scrubbing, the water still beads. So get New Finish, the once-a-year car polish.
New Finish, available at Kmart, Walgreens, Sears, Western Auto, Ace, True Value, and other leading stores. Captivating audiences all over the world with his romantic and charming style of international music. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in America, the incomparable talents of Mr. Sergio Alberti. Sergio Alberti, available only through this exclusive offer. Order your double CDs or cassettes. Call now, 1-800-733-8900. That's 733-8900.
This is CBS News Up to the Minute. It seems some parts of the country are getting more snow this spring than last winter. If you look real closely, you can see cars trying to maneuver the roads in Fargo, North Dakota. More than 2 inches of snow, accompanied by strong winds, graced the Missouri River Valley. There were quite a few fender benders, but no serious injuries were reported. Let's see what Mother Nature has in store for us this Wednesday. It is spring, although you wouldn't know that. The Great Lakes, flurries and showers will cover Michigan, Wisconsin, and parts of Minnesota. New England residents can dry out, with the exception of Maine, where umbrellas are in order. A storm system over the Rockies means a soggy Wednesday for Wyoming and western Colorado. It is a great time to hit the beach in Miami and the Carolinas. Temperatures there will rise to 80 along the eastern seaboard. Colder weather is in store for the northern plains, with 40 and 50-degree temperatures in the Dakotas. It will warm up to the 60s from Maine to Pennsylvania.
One of the new shows on the CBS summer replacement lineup is being shot right now in a place that has already had its share of excitement, the newsroom of the CBS TV station in Miami. Dave Game takes us there.
Turning night into day is child's play for movie makers. Big lights, lots of power, and it's mid-afternoon at 6 a.m. That's how early they had to start to turn the Channel 6 newsroom into the set of the newest CBS comedy, Grapevine, a show not only set in Miami, but filmed in South Florida, entirely on location.
Grapevine is a sexy comedy about three characters who live in Miami. David, a restaurateur, Susan, who works in a cruise line, and Thumper, who's a sportscaster here at Channel 6.
He gossips about the love life of his friends, moving some of the action into a TV station. So before dawn today, the real reporters made way for the Hollywood version, or in this case, the Miami extras who fit Hollywood's vision of reporters. Model Ida Vasquez filled the background from my desk, her second TV job.
I didn't think I was going to have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do this. But those are the breaks, right?
Anything for showbiz. While the fake reporters worked, the fake news director worked through an affair with a fake anchor.
I want you to break up with him.
Oh, you have the right.
Look, we can still go back to the way it was before.
There's no way in hell we can go back.
Just listen to me for 1 minute.
You are scum.
Trying to keep quiet, the real people behind tonight's newscast were crammed into a back corner of the newsroom. Reality carefully kept separate from illusion, if not confusion. It's easy to get confused by the fast pace of a television show. You think everything moves that fast, but the filming, nowhere near it. It's a snail's pace. Just getting a camera moved from place to place can seem to take half an hour. Even so, this crew will film 13 scenes, rushing to get the show on the air as a summer replacement for Designing Women.
This is the most protected time slot, I'd say, that CBS has.
Dave Game for CBS News, Miami.
Now to our up-to-the-minute sports. In the NHL playoffs last night, the New York Rangers and their hot goalie, John Van Beesbrook, were stopped by the pesky Devils at Madison Square Garden. Claude Lemieux was the man for New Jersey. Lemieux scored twice, including the go-ahead goal late in the second period.